So we are going to be here for a little bit, maybe 90 minutes, chatting away, thinking about the mind and how to deal with problems. It's all right. We don't need to, yeah, there are problems. So we think we're going to do a little motivation. We're going to listen, think about, analyze, contemplate these ideas, including me. I'm doing that too, about how to work with our human mind, how to grow it into this marvelous potential for wisdom and clarity and courage and confidence, which is Buddha's view, for our sake and the sake of others, because we all live in this crazy world together. So I'll just sing a little prayer in Tibetan, expresses this idea. Sangye charang soke chognam la jangcho badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi chanyen gipe sonam ki drola penche sangye drupa shok sangye charang soke chognam la jangcho badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi chanyen gipe sonam ki drola penche sangye drupa shok sangye charang soke chognam la Jamcho Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi, Dagi Chanyen Gipe Sonam Ki, Drola Penchir Sange, Drupa Shok. So I think anxiety is a big word for us, isn't it? We all love that word. I mean, we all know it. We all really, totally, the word anxiety is huge. Worried, anxious, worried, fears, So what is it from the Buddhist point of view? Sort of like the meeting point. It's the meeting point between this constant, deeply ingrained, constant assumption that somehow we must always have everything lovely. Attachment is quite subtle. When we think of attachment from the Buddhist perspective, we think of, I like sex or drugs or rock and roll. Yeah, that's attachment. But here we're talking much more subtle level, almost at the level of assumption and hard to see it. It's kind of like drives us. It's way more subtle than we would normally think, I think. So there's this, it's like this assumption that I must only get the nice things. Everything must be nice sounds, nice smell, nice taste, nice touch, and nice thoughts. Everything must be nice. It's just there. So already that's anxious. And in the millisecond, it doesn't come the way you want it, the way attachment wants it. That's the moment of aversion. Can be volatile anger or milder. That's really the meeting point of anxiety, is when it comes to the surface. I think so, So it's a normal human behavior. I mean, we always sound like something's totally wrong, especially we think we're totally wrong. We shouldn't have it. We're wrong. What have I done wrong, But the Buddha's analysis is this is what's called samsara. Everyone is in it. Until you're a highly realized being, you're going to be like this to one degree or another. So in a sense, I take it personally, It's like join the universe, people. Because I think Buddha's view of the mind, we've got to remember this. We don't think this. We don't know this in our world, When we realize, I always say this, when we realize that Buddha came out of this amazing, extraordinary, sophisticated Western, Indian, world of incredibly sophisticated psychology and understanding and awareness of the human mind. We do not know that in the West. That is for sure. Maybe these days discovering. I always quote it, as the Dalai Lama says, with these amazing Indians more than 3,000 years ago, who were the ones who began the investigation into the nature of self. It's a big shock to us. We smarty pants modern people thought it was Freud or something, 100 years ago. And how they discovered it was, this is the part that's really shocking and quite surprising to us, and we have nothing remotely like it in our modern neuroscience or psychology. It comes from investigating the internal workings of your own subjective cognitive process itself. Super sophisticated. That's what these Indians developed, They're the ones who created this technique called single point of concentration that enables you to completely subdue the grosser level of mind to go to a much subtler level. And I always say this repeatedly because we're not used to thinking this. We just think it's a wacky old weird religion, these Indians, you know, they're so rude. So this skill, this concentration technique is up the beginnings for any one of us. We mightn't get to the level that you can get because you've got to, you know, to have certain conditions to do that, but we can learn to practice it. What we vaguely know in the world as mindfulness meditation is based on this technique, you know. So Buddha's deal, which again is very shocking for us. We might know it having read it in books, but we don't want to believe it. And it's absolutely not our experience. Buddha's deal is the main player in our experiences of happiness and suffering. It's so shocking. The main player in our experiences of happiness and suffering are not the external events or people or things. It's the mind. So if that's the case, it's obvious. If you take that on board, it is obvious you'd better learn to know what the hell is going on in your mind. And that does, and I'm talking about getting a microscope and looking at your brain. We're not discussing that. We're talking about your thoughts. Honestly, thoughts. Thoughts go to a much subtler level than we think, you know. Especially all the thoughts that manifest as emotions. This is the skill we have to learn, you know. But I mean, part of it, the biggest problem, of course, is, you know, not the biggest problem is we haven't got concentration. The biggest problem is that we mightn't do meditation. That's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is buying into this possibility that what goes on in my mind is the thing that I have to work with. That's too shocking for us. Because the whole world appears to us. Our experiences appear to us to come from the outside. We're this innocent victim of good and bad things, pushing us from pillar to post. That's how we all feel. You know, even me practicing for years, someone's mean to you. The first thing is, how dare they do that? They're the cause of my problem, you know. If someone's kind to you, oh wow, they're the cause of my happiness. This is very deep inside us. So to even begin to contemplate the possibility that what goes on in my mind plays a more powerful role. That's the hard part for us. That's the really hard part. So the Buddha calls them these boring, simple terms. He talks about the three poisons. Anybody who's read any Buddhist book, you're going to hear the three poisons, you know. Sounds so cute. You don't go to your therapist and say, oh, I've got the three poisons. You just shut up and go home, you know. So the root one, of course, as we know if we've read any Buddhist books, the root misconception, the root neurosis, the root delusion, the root assumption, the root mistake is this even way more subtle than attachment. Is this primordial assumption of a strong, solid, concrete, separate me, which seems so abstract to even say it. But you know what it means, you know. On the basis of that, there's its main voice is this emotional hunger to get what that me wants. That's attachment. And then anger or aversion is the panic attack when attachment doesn't get what it wants. That's it. I mean, there's so many other states of mind. And the Buddhist analysis is really precise, very distinct, very precise. But these three are all tremendously powerful. And then even forget the root one, but just the attachment and the aversion. These are so intimately connected. They're the root of our worries, our fears, our anxiety, our anger, our despair, our hopelessness, our depression. All of this are rooted in these two. So we better learn to identify them, haven't we? It's really tough. It's hard. We've got to start somewhere. We've got to start with the willingness, with the wish to see our mind, rather than just point the fingers, you know. This is the part that's too. Because, you know, when we talk about our experiences, we remember the event. When we talk about, you know, they had this anger last week, they say, tell me about it, Robina. I'll tell you all about the thing, the person, what they said, the event, what happened. I want to talk about my mind. I don't even know how to, because we assume those are the source of this anger in here. We wouldn't even know how to analyze the anger. We don't know what that means. We say, why am I angry? And then we talk about the things out there. We have to look into the anger itself, the attachment itself, the aversion itself. That's positive. So to help us understand, even go towards that, it's helpful to understand the Buddhist analysis, which is that, all our emotional responses to things, anger, depression, all ones that are so emotional, when we feel them in our body, those ones we are very familiar. They're the ones that are painful. But to realize in the Buddhist analysis, they are rooted in, are driven by conceptual thoughts, deep in the bones of our being, that we've totally practiced thinking, and then eventually to the point where they arise spontaneously, like the instinct, So it's so helpful to do that analysis. It's a theory. So then if that's the case, then we look at these neuroses and we say, we need to ask, well, what are they saying? What is attachment saying? What is anger saying? What does jealousy say? If you articulated it, like a little person inside you, all these roommates. I mean, it's not too difficult. If you are angry and you wrote down, or we just recorded your words, you're shouting and yelling, and we recorded your words. Or if you're a quiet person, but you've got all these angry thoughts, but you don't show them, if you wrote them down, it's obvious that they're thoughts, aren't they? They're thoughts. There's no shouting and yelling happening. They're thoughts. And anybody with half a brain, if they read those words, which are expressions of thoughts, you can tell what anger's saying. Who do you think you are? How dare that happen to me? I don't deserve it. All those words. It's immediate. You just have to read them. Oh, wow, this person's angry. So it's obvious it's thoughts. I mean, it's surprising to hear it's thoughts, but it's obvious it's thoughts. But we get so caught up in the physical, emotional component of it. That's why we call it a feeling, And it's true, it's very powerful. We don't get to the point underneath the feeling and emotion. It's thoughts. The series of, in other words, thoughts are opinions. How dare you do that to me? That's an opinion, a viewpoint, a concept, a thought. So then what's wrong with it? You should ask. It's very fascinating. So one way of looking at it, how dare you do that to me? I don't deserve it. That's the essence of anger. Like the shock when something happens that attachment doesn't want. And it could be very bad. I mean, terrible things happen to people on the planet. There's no doubt. How dare you do that to me? What's that saying there? There's an assumption in there. The assumption is I don't deserve it, isn't it? That, I mean, we spent a month analyzing that. So when you say deserve, I think the assumption is that someone else is supposed to do it or not do it. Like I always say, you never, this is now we're getting into karma now here, this is a Buddhist view. But if you look in your garden, you would never say, who put weeds in how dare there weeds be in my garden? I don't deserve it. You'd never say that, even though how disgusting your garden is. It's so obvious why. It's so obvious why, because you play a role in your garden. So this is one way of talking about the way ego works, that all the assumptions of a very innocent victim who plays no role at all in this scenario. It's like that. So attachment, what's attachment? Because attachment is more primordial. Attachment is the assumption that I only deserve good things. Think about this. Really, it's fascinating. Which assumes you're this innocent, you're not a player. You're sitting there waiting for good things to happen. And it's other people's job to make you happy. It's other people's job to do good things and make things good. I deserve only good things. That's what attachment is saying. That's very fascinating. Again, you look in your garden, aren't I lucky? I deserve flowers. You'd never say that because you remember all the hard work. You did it. You'd never say I deserve because you did it. So that's a massive point. Forget even the one of past karma, future lives and past lives, which of course Buddhists deal. Well, no, you can't forget. You have to look at it in the bigger picture point of view. What I'm getting at is the assumptions of this attachment, this emotional hunger to only have the nice things. It's very stressed, because the second it doesn't come nice, then the aversion arises, the panic, the anxiety, the anger. How dare that happen to me? How dare that? I think is the main way we suffer on this planet. Okay, if you're having a fight with someone and I punch you and you punch me, we kind of know we're in the middle of it together, right? And usually things happen out of the blue, or we think they do, and there's always this shock. How dare that happen? I think that's the major way we go mad in our world, because we can't see a reason, and we can't indeed see a reason often from our own perspective, which is why from Buddhist perspective, karma can't be denied, as a viewpoint. It's completely integrated into the entire Buddhist view of how we exist, which is not comfortable for most Buddhists. Most Buddhists don't care about karma, don't even think about it, don't even see the relevance, But it's absolutely fundamental. Anyway, the topic was how to look anxiety in the eye. How to look the bad. The real one is how to look the thing that attachment doesn't want in the eye. Because attachment energy is like, oh, that's lovely, and you go towards it and want more. Aversion energy is, that's ugly, go away. It's kind of pretty obvious, And this is the point again. Remember the Buddha saying the main player in our suffering isn't that punch, is not that bad food, is not that mean boyfriend, is not that horrible politician, is not the war zone, is not the bad weather. This is so shocking we can't hear it, because it's so instinctive to think that. It's what's happening in the mind. It's what's happening in here. That's what we have to look at. And that's the hardest part. To catch what's in the mind as that thing happens. So one way of saying what the entire external world is from the Buddhist perspective, all the events and people and things and sounds and smells and tastes, things out there, the objects of the mind, the objects of our senses, are merely catalysts. It's the best way to put it. Are merely catalysts, for our experiences. So what we have to look at is our experiences, our mind. And that's extremely difficult, because first, we're not used to doing that. Second, we don't think it's true. And anyway, there's 1,000 thoughts a second. So it's like a joke, We never pay attention. So when we start to pay attention, it's kind of intense. The basic of the Buddhist point is the mind is infinitely flexible. We can change it. And why we want to change it is because it's the source of our happiness and suffering. That's the basis of all Buddhist teachings. It's very simple to say it, but it's so shocking to hear it, So we have to practice. So as long as things keep happening nicely, as long as attachment keeps getting what it wants, it's too subtle to even notice. The only time we notice that attachment is the emotional hunger to get what it wants, is when it doesn't get what it wants. And the panic arises, That's the time to catch it. So the big one here is one other thing, Buddha talks about all the neuroses, all the delusions, which he says we can all get rid of, which is why he talks about them, because he's investigated them. He says they're all rooted in fear. This is very surprising to us. We say we've got different problems. We've got anger, jealousy, and fear. Well, fear doesn't have its own status as a particular state of mind in Buddhist psychology, because it's the character of all the neuroses. They're all rooted in anxiety and worry and fear. They're all unhappy states of mind. They're really unhappy states of mind. They're all rooted in fear. They're all rooted in anxiety. It's just a question of degree. That's very interesting. Why? Because they're not what attachment wants. Attachment has a panic attack when it meets what it doesn't want. So that if we can look at something, if we learn to do this job of becoming familiar with our own mind, you start with your boring old watching your breath meditation, which is not particularly a skill to help you know what's going on in your mind, because it's just concentration. But at beginning to do that, which is really what you're doing is refraining from just absorbing in all the thoughts mindlessly, which is how we spend all our time. What you're doing is consciously training yourself to not get involved in the thoughts. It's not easy, but you're training to attempt to do that. So you're training yourself to focus on one thing, like the breath, So the thoughts are going to happen no matter what. And so that's why even though you're watching the breath, you can't help but become conscious of them. It's like you're driving the car on a 6-lane freeway. You are totally focused, unwaveringly focused on exactly what's in front of you. But in your peripheral vision, isn't it? All the other dramas are evident to you. They need to be. And you're factoring them in. But here, your breath is what you're watching, but you can't help out of your peripheral vision hear all the thoughts. And that's good. The one thing we often think of meditation is going to make all the thoughts go away. Nonsense. They will eventually when you have concentration. That's advanced. But meanwhile, a big bonus of doing your concentration, focusing, aiming to not absorb into your thoughts, aiming to step back and just watch the boring old breath. Massive advantages, you can't help but hear them. And this is good because once you're off your cushion, now you start to be able to hear what's going on in your mind before it vomits out the mouth. We need to learn to do that because this is what we have to deal with. You can't just make the thoughts go away. They've got very powerful energy. They play a massive role in our lives. So we have to hear what they are first, and that's really hard to recognize. What's that one? That's anger. That's jealousy. What are those words saying? We can't even hear the words. We don't notice our mind until the body is shaking, and it's way too late by then, But they've all got their own. They're all writing their own script in here. So one of the key things in Buddhist psychology about all the neuroses is the conceptual thoughts deep down in our bones, but we've practiced them to perfection, that they exaggerate. They're not valid, not in a moralistic sense, but in a practical sense. Being thoughts, they're misconceptions. This is very surprising. Once we can see this, it's a revelation. The virtuous thoughts, love, compassion, kindness, they are valid because they're rooted in dependent arising. In truth, in reality. They're valid concepts. This is a very fascinating thought. The neuroses are all the voices of the poor, unhappy, concrete, solid, self-pity me. And they're all distorted. They exaggerate. So attachment exaggerates the deliciousness of something and its role in making you happy. Anger or aversion, bare bones aversion, and then anger or annoyance or frustration or milder levels of anger, they exaggerate the ugliness of something, the horribleness of something. And they're the ones that causes the panic attack, And of course, we want to not look at them. So in our minds, this big fat lump of something ugly out there that's causing my pain, So looking in the eye sounds cute, but it's very profound. It means, there's a thing there and you don't panic. You learn to look at it. And as soon as, if you can learn to do that and not respond instinctively with fear and panic, which is very hard, because you're looking at it more with more stability, it's not as bad as you thought. As our mothers would tell us, we make mountains out of molehills. It's very profound. It's really extremely profound, that. So you can practice being stable in the face of the ugly thing happening. That's really what patience is. That's what patience is. We know some people who are patient. That's a profound quality, I tell you. It's really quite profound. People who are angry, we can see the trouble they make. They're freaking out every second, having a panic attack every minute, because things are never the way they want. That's what anger is. Extremely self-centered. A patient person is looking you in the eye and is not having a panic attack. It's very interesting, that. So they don't go up and down like yo-yos and don't go crazy, You can see that. But looking you in the eye is very powerful. In other words, you learn not to be freaked out about it. And the interesting point is, as soon as you are like that, you see it more clearly. You see the details of it, not as this big lump of panic, you know. It's very profound, actually. You have to practice it. And why would we want to practice this? Because we want to be happy people. This is the method for getting happy, changing our own mind. Hugely difficult job, but it's possible. And we first are the beneficiaries. Then, of course, others who live with us also benefit. So what do you think? Ask me some questions. Anybody? I'll talk for a whole half an hour. Okay, come on. It's 13 minutes non-stop. Talk to me. Ask me questions now. Open it all up. Discuss. Where are you? Go, go, go.
I know this is true, without a doubt. And then I'm sure of it. I never think it's outside of myself. I never think a pair of shoes will do it, or a guy, or
I understand.
never, never, never. So, you know, every so often though, I freak out.
That's right.
Really freak out.
That's right.
And as I'm doing it, well, right after. Because if I knew I was doing it as I'm freaking out,
Yeah, you
I
try and catch
probably
it.
stop.
No,
But
that's right. That's right.
right after,
That's right.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know. Oh,
There I go again.
yeah, there I did it. And
That's right.
I don't freak out maybe as big, but who knows? I might. You know, I might, given the right circumstances. So the deal is to just keep going, right?
So I think the key, yeah, of course, but the key to it, surely, that's why I use this stupid example. I have to use it, but it's really a good analogy. Okay, before I say the analogy, in our culture, I think we're not. I don't think we're brought up like this. We just, oh, she's angry. Like I was a kid, I'd always say my mother never had to teach me to be angry. I had it down to perfection. So it was immediate. I didn't have any processing time. It was immediate. The moment my attachment didn't get what it wants, that's when anger exploded. So what that means is I didn't notice what was in my mind before it came to the mouth, isn't it? So that's why we have to have a practice. We have to learn to hear the conceptual stories called aversion that are in there, or attachments there, wanting what it wants all the time. We never notice. And the moment that thing happens, aversion says, how dare, and then out it comes the mouth and the explosion. So the key to success is to see the mind before it gets to the emotional level. That's the key to success. That's it. That's it. Done. That's it. That's how. And that's how.
I have a follow-up.
What?
Follow-up
How'd you
question.
go?
Okay.
That means concentration. We need good concentration. It means practicing a disciplined practice every day, focusing on something so that we are learning to train our thoughts to stay stable, which is not their natural tendency.
Okay, let's say you're doing that and you are stable, you have a
Well,
lot
relatively, until you
relative
until we're,
stability.
yeah, sure.
What about super, super, super difficult, toxic people?
Well, okay, put it this way, everything is a question of degree. I mean, if you've got very few problems out there and you've got your meditation going, you won't get angry, you won't get upset. But give you a hard enough one, like a really toxic maniac in front of you, or a gunman coming at you, or a tiger about to eat your head off, then okay, it's a question of degree, isn't it? So we have to keep going. There's nothing wrong. Just have to learn from our experiences. Learn how much we have to keep learning. Not, oh my God, I know it all, but I still keep doing it. That's the mistake. That's not fair. That's an inappropriate response. It just means you've got to, I've got to keep practicing. I've got to keep practicing. That's it. And learn from it. It's okay. Learn from it. That's it. But so the way I say it, I mean, the way I say it really is true. I think it's true. We have incredible maintenance in our culture for our body, for example. We don't wait for our teeth to fall out. Well, unless you're completely deluded, you don't wait for your teeth to fall out before you go to the dentist. You don't wait till until your hair falls out. You don't wait till we maintain our houses. We nowhere in the world we allow our car to drive until it's exhausted and the wheels are falling off at 100 miles an hour. We maintain it. Wheels do not fall off, but we don't maintain our mind. We don't even have the means. And then when the wheels fall off, we go, I'm angry. What do I do? That's like 100 miles an hour, and you've never noticed the wheels even wobbling because you don't even pay attention. So that's the job of paying attention to our mind. Not just occasionally, but every damn second. That's what we have to learn. And then when we realize, during the Buddhist analysis, that conceptuality goes to really subtle levels. I mean, there are layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of incredible subtlety. So we just have to keep digging deep. Next level, next. There's incredibly sophisticated levels of subtle conceptuality. And that's and we practice them. The Buddha, that's why, at least to think of karma, we practice them for countless lifetimes. We didn't start when we came out of the mother's womb. We came totally programmed with this stuff. And I just find, as an idea, that at least shows us why it's so hard. It was just this life, no big deal, Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's what the rubbish goes much deeper than we imagine. As long as we know that, then we'll be more humble with ourselves and not falsely expect improvement, and not falsely expect what we can't be expecting. Learn from it every time. That's it.
Well, actually, the inverse, like you mentioned, I think on the last talk, when you're speaking what you just said, I now think, wow, I'm pretty good.
That's right. We've got to remember that. We've got to know how far we've gotten. But also, for me, very simple point with respect to the world. Here we are discussing how to know our thoughts so we can become a better human being. That's it's pretty intense that we should be, wishing to do that. So really pat ourselves on the back, please. Do you understand? I mean, that's incredible. We're even giving credibility to this idea that we want to look on our mind. That's pretty incredible. That's a laughable, absurd joke in the normal world. Do you understand? So be happy, rejoice. We have to remember that.
Yes.
Meanwhile, own the mistakes, own where we're at, and keep moving, knowing we're not set in stone. And also learn from it. If there are certain people, it's like if you're an alcoholic, no one would expect you to give up attachment to alcohol while continuing to drink alcohol. It's a no-brainer. You remove yourself from the problem. So know your own mind. And that's where I always joke and say that 40% of the women on the planet who get murdered by the men in the same bed, 40% of all women who get murdered are murdered by the bloke in the same bed. This is not about men. This is about not knowing our own minds. So we had some awareness, there'd be 40% more women on the planet. Do you understand my point? We don't even notice until it's too late. If we've had attention and had some self-respect, we'd remove ourselves from crazy people. We'd remove ourselves from the problems, but we don't have any self-respect and any awareness. We're like little lemmings. We run towards the problems because we're full of attachment and neediness and get into all this mess, Do you understand?
I'm about to, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to deal with a very, very difficult person. And I'm not even sure I'm ready. I'm not even sure that I can.
We have to know, you have to really know yourself. It's like if you had to carry a weight, you know your own capacity. But when it comes to people, we're so naive with each other. We just fall into each other and then wonder why we have problems because we've got no self-respect, No awareness. Got to be very wise, very humble. But we're also too scared to say no to people, or I might upset them, they mightn't like me, so we're always jumping into problems. We've got to have some awareness, We've got to know what we can handle. This is a huge step to take. Got to know it's worth it. You've got to know it's worth it. Isn't it? Keep going. Anyone online? Anybody? Questions there? Anybody? Hello there. Nicole. Talk to me, sweetheart. Nicole.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Sweetheart.
Okay. Can you talk about, you said virtuous thoughts are valid because they are rooted in dependent arising.
I know that's a good point. Let's just look at that. I know it's a bit abstract. Well, think of it like this. Everything Buddha's this talk is that point is coming from this view of the Buddha that everything exists in dependence upon its parts. Don't I normally have a microphone? Oh, but don't I normally have a microphone? Oh, that's that one.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, okay, good. So if you think everything got a parts and everything, so think of this one first. So the computer, we know it's got millions of parts, and if they're all working properly, they all work together harmoniously to produce a computer. Would you accept that first point? Nicole, where are you? So now think of this, a group of people, two people, they're parts of a thing called a group. So let's say three people. And let's say each of the people, if all the bits and pieces in their job, or each person does their job while you're in the kitchen making the cake. You do your job, I do mine. But if you start butting into each other, all the parts of that little group don't work and everything's a mess. So if all the parts of something work, then everything's harmonious. So think of your mind. Think of your mind, and you've got negative, neurotic, deluded misconceptions that are jagged, unhappy, emotional, I-based, self-centered, and ridiculous. And then if they predominate even in your mind, they're all your parts. You are a complete total mess. Now, if you have virtuous thoughts are valid because they're reasonable, they're dependent, they all work smoothly together. So if you and I are mainly being virtuous with each other, we have a very peaceful, happy group. People will see our body language. Oh, look at Nicole and Robina. They're being so kind to each other. They're cracking jokes. They're listening to each other because we're being harmonious. But the moment attachment comes, the moment anger comes, it messes up. Everything messes up and nothing works. I mean, it's just a way of saying it, that virtues for delusions are conceptual thoughts that don't have a valid basis in reality. So attachment is a conceptual thought that exaggerates the deliciousness of the cake. It exaggerates the power of the cake to make me happy. So already that's a disaster. They're conceptual thoughts, but they're not valid because what they're thinking exists on that plate doesn't exist on that plate. So it's a mess. But if you have love for somebody, love is, may you be happy. So my connection with you and your connection with me, when I say, may you be happy, and you say to me, may you be happy, it works. It's valid. It's valid because it's a reasonable, valid concept that does have a basis in reality. Because my thought, when it's attachment, it's only in me and what I want. When it's love, it reaches out to you and incorporates you with me. So it's interdependent. There's a sense of dependence, dependent arising there. When it's only delusions, there's no feeling of dependence. It's independent, not fair, poor me. I don't know, I'm trying to say a few words here. But literally, virtues are valid concepts and delusions are invalid concepts, not in a moralistic way, but in a literal way. I don't know. Is that some food for thought?
So virtuous thoughts depend on each person.
No, virtuous thoughts, what I'm getting at, no, they are rooted in dependent arising. They are in themselves rooted in things are interdependent. Working when two people are being virtuous with each other, we are working harmoniously together. So we exist interdependently. But the moment your anger and my anger crash into each other, there's two vivid, concrete, separate, ugly, old, unhappy little me's in there making a complete mess. There's no validity. We've got misconceptions in our mind. There's no interdependence somehow. There's no interconnectedness. Can you hear that?
Right. Yes. So, or even if just one person, like I could walk in and assume somebody's thinking something they're not, and then have a bad thought. That's all my self-centered,
So what's the
not
question?
interdependent. I'm just reflecting back, trying to see if I understand.
I know it's a bit vague how I'm saying it, but when everything is working correctly, that means we are in touch with dependent arising, that everything is dependent, things work well together, they are existing interdependently. As soon as things are not working well, there's no sense of interdependence. Nothing ever works. It's all jagged and ugly. It's just a way of saying it. I don't know how to
Okay.
express it. Maybe I'm saying it a bit weird.
Can I give an example that I think
Go on
might?
then.
Okay, so for example, my daughter came home today in a very bad mood. And so if I reacted to her bad mood, or that would be the jagged, not interdependent.
I mean, what I
But
mean,
if I was able to respond with loving kindness, and then it made her calm down, and then
yeah, but that's another discussion. It's not quite the same point, and I think I'm
Oh.
just making it a bit weird how I talk about it. So
okay.
let it be. Yeah,
All
go
right.
on, Michael and Stacey. Who was saying something?
Thank you.
Stacey? Go, darling.
So if there is no me, what is there?
There is a me, Stacey. There is a Stacey, but not an independent Stacey. There is a Michael, but not an independent Michael. And we don't know the difference because we don't realize that we are clinging to an independent Stacey and an independent Michael. That's why it sounds confusing. We don't know the difference.
So your me is a dependent arising?
Yeah, that's right. Everything exists. The fundamental way things exist conventionally from the Buddhist perspective is interdependently. Things exist in dependence upon causes, in dependence upon things exist interdependently. So we think, Buddha says we think, we don't know we think it, but deep in our bones, we think there's an independent, solid, set in stone, separate Stacey in there that runs the show. That's one mistake that we make. We just assume it. We just assume that there's that me in there. That kind of me doesn't exist. But a dependent arising Stacey does exist. But the difference for us is a bit gross. We can't see it. That's what we have to learn to see.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks.
Doc. Someone else? Yes.
Still having some trouble with this.
Start again, darling. Start again.
I'm still having some trouble with this idea of the like virtuous thoughts being valid.
Okay.
So if it's something like love,
Yes.
I'm not sure why that's not also an attachment.
Oh, no, okay. So it's a question of defining what love is. So in the Buddhist view, you got neurotic, deluded, ridiculous thoughts, and then you have the virtuous ones. So if I say to you normally, if we're boyfriend and girlfriend, and I say, oh, what's your name? B.
Yeah.
If I say, oh, I love B, I'm really saying 99% attached to B. I'm meaning they, for me, they're the same. I think they're literally equivalent. What I really mean in the beginning, when you look so divine to me and perfect, I've got enormous attachment for B, which makes you look divine. You give me so much pleasure. And I say, I love you, but love is a delight in your happiness. Love is may you be happy. But at the moment, it's contingent upon my attachment. So I can't tell the difference. But they're totally different states of mind. Attachment is I-based, needy, emotional, delusional, massive expectation that you better damn well make me happy, mate. Possessive, it's got all that energy. It's needy, controlling, possessive, manipulating, expectation. That's all the energy of attachment. But we can't tell the difference. Love is may you be happy, and it's a virtue. That's a virtue. And it's rooted in being a sense of connectedness with you. Because if it's purely attachment, it won't last long, because when you stop doing what I want every second, which is what attachment wants, I'll chuck you out. I think you're disgusting and throw you out, you know. But if it's mainly love, I want you to be happy. I see your mind more clearly. I'm more aware of you. I'll be more patient. I'll be more kind. I'll be more compassionate. I won't be just self-centered.
But isn't that love ultimately derived from whatever relationship you have with this person? Like I love my mom more than I love
So what's the point you're making?
people here.
So,
You know, it's like,
no, but what's the point you're making?
is that not just a form of attachment? Like
No, put it this way. You got to keep remembering love and attachment are two separate states of mind, but we put them together, we mix them. So yes, you could argue you do have affection and love for your mum because you're attached to her. That's why. So yes, of course, at the moment it is like that. At the moment, absolutely. If you have a baby, you definitely adore your baby and you want them to be happy, and you'll give your life for them 99% because of attachment. So yeah, that's right. So it's a question of saying it the right way. We do have more. In fact, the only people we have affection for on this planet are those we're attached to. So as soon as it's like, if you're my boyfriend and you start cheating on me, my love will turn off like a tap the second my attachment turns into aversion. Do you understand me? So of course it's contingent upon attachment. And we just take it for granted that we love those we're attached to, and we're attached to those we love. But the Buddha's dealers, we can learn to grow love to an incredible degree for everybody. And that's another whole discussion. Because everybody wants to be happy. Do you understand?
So when you're talking about virtuous thoughts being valid.
Valid because, okay.
That kind of love is valid, but the love of like, you know, I love my.
No, not, it's not saying like that. I don't mean it like that. No, I'm finding it hard to explain it. The Buddhist view of the mind, there are states of mind that are negative, non-virtuous, neurotic, delusional, misconceptions, therefore not valid. Not valid, not emotion, not moralistically, but literally like saying 1 + 1 is 3. That's an invalid concept. Attachment is an invalid concept because it's not accurate in what it's seeing. When I'm in love with you, I'm exaggerating your divineness. It blinds me from seeing you. So what I'm thinking B is a fantasy when it's seen through the lenses of attachment. So it's like saying 1 + 1 is 3. It's an invalid concept. It's not true. You're not what I'm thinking you are. Do you see my point? It's not valid from that perspective, not a moralistic perspective. But love is reasonable because it's I see you more clearly. There's me here. I connect with you. I reach out to you, and it works. We can see that if there's more love in a relationship, it's going to work. If it's only attachment, you're bashing into me and I'm bashing into you. It's hopeless. Do you understand sort of what I'm saying? A little bit, okay. All right, go someone else. But the key thing coming on, Alenia, the key thing is to distinguish inside here, and it's very hard because they come together, you know, totally come together. Love and attachment, we wouldn't even know how to distinguish. So it demands that we know our mind well and see the difference. Otherwise, my relation with you will be a disaster. Do you understand? Yeah. Go. Oh, someone else. Yes. Who's here? Joey, talk, sweetheart. Then Eileen next. Joey.
Hi, Venerable. I have really been struggling lately with my judgmentalness. And I'm wondering if,
Okay, you mean finding fault with people?
absolutely,
That's
yeah,
anger.
yeah.
That's called anger. So tell me, what's the question?
If there's something when I have these thoughts, the angry thoughts and judgmentalness, if there's something I can do because it feels terrible.
I
when
know.
I'm
That's
thinking,
the whole thing is same as you have to catch it, darling. You have to catch it, Joey. But is it people you read about, or is it your friends, or your what?
I find it's a certain group of people.
Out there in the world, out there in the world.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so this is just, I think we feel in the world, we just feel we all have to have an opinion. The second we see someone, the second we see a person down the street, the second we see a dog or a cockroach, the second we read the news, we just start having these, like we're kind of these, we have this commentary on it. We've got to learn to shut our mouth, Joey. What the hell do you want to have an opinion? Leave these poor people alone, let them be. Mind your own business is a good way to put it. Or if you want to learn from it, go, oh, I recognize arrogance. There's jealousy. There's attachment. Thank you for showing me how not to be. Then use it to turn back to yourself to realize you're in the same damn boat as everybody else.
Okay.
Do you understand me?
I do. Yeah. That's very, very helpful.
Okay.
Wow. So when I have those thoughts, every darn one of them that I catch,
Just
flip
catch
it.
before you start. Try and catch before you start until you just shut up.
I'll do it.
Or if you don't like that politician and you're going, there he is, he's this, he's that, say, I recognize that. There's anger, there's hubris, there's jealousy, there's lying. I recognize that. Thank you, Mr. Trump, for showing me how not to be. Like that. So immediately you feel connected to the other person, not this hubris and arrogance of pointing fingers, and you bring it back to a learning for yourself. This is tremendous.
Okay. Huh.
The pot,
all right.
the pot cannot call the kettle black.
Ha. Gotcha.
Like our mother's
all right.
But we love to have opinions, Joey, as if we're all saints. It's pretty incredible, you know.
It is.
Do you understand?
I do. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Shut up. That's all. Just say shut up.
All right.
Be quiet.
I'll do it. Thank you.
Okay. Go on. Who's had the mic? Yes, sweetheart. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that?
Read that. Read that until it reads.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
So when you were talking to Beat, you mentioned something about expectations and
Yeah,
attachment.
That's right.
So I was thinking about my husband
Yeah,
and I have expectations.
That's
and
right.
He has expectations
Uh-huh.
of me, and I was just hoping you can clarify a little.
okay, I will do that. Obviously, if you and I decide we're going to go for dinner at 6 o'clock, it's reasonable you expect me to be at 6. Nothing, that's called living life reasonably. Okay, so maybe the first day I get there 10 minutes late, and I apologize. You can forgive me, right?
Yeah.
But again, we say 6 o'clock tomorrow. Again, it's reasonable to expect that I'll come at 6. So at some point,
They can't see you.
I know that, but I can't see her. So at some point, you've got to make a decision. You either accept I'm hopeless and you still love me, so stop expecting me to turn up on time for your own benefit, or you say, sorry, mate, I can't do this. So nothing wrong with living your life expecting, if you want dollar change, you expect a dollar change. That's reasonable. But with the problem of expectations when it comes to attachment is neurotic and demanding. So when I'm in love with B and attachment in me is exaggerating his divineness, it's always, attachment is very self-centered and it's demanding that he better fulfill my view of him. And that massive expectation. So I'm needy and hungry emotionally, and he dares to come home 5 minutes late and I have a mental breakdown because he's cheating on me. That's just irrational,
Yeah.
So this is noticing whether it's irrational and this attachment, this expectation is a big deal with attachment. It's part of the neurotic emotional attachment,
Yes.
Do you understand me?
Yes.
Expect. So if I think he's divine, he's got to behave divinely every second, and it's his job that he's got to make me happy.
Right.
That massive expectation.
Yeah.
So if you have less of that, so you can still expect your husband to make you happy because you've got a contract with each other, but we've got to really learn to see how our expectations, because attachment's never happy, you see. Attachment's never satisfied. So he might look at you every day and divine and praise you 27 times a day, but if you've got really strong emotional hunger, you'll still not be satisfied and you'll still demand more from him. And that's one of the pains in relationships, because attachment is a bottomless pit. It cannot be satisfied. It's constant emotional hunger, constantly thinking I haven't got enough, constantly thinking I deserve more. And we dump all of that on the other person. Do you understand me?
Yes.
So it's really, you've got to see the difference.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
I think so. It's like more about making sure that it's rational. The things that are
Rational is reasonable. Like if your hubby starts beating you up, that's not part of the contract.
Right.
And you've got to make a decision.
Yeah.
If you love him that much and it doesn't matter to you, then okay, it's water off a duck's back. I'm going to shut up and go away and whatever. The key is we've got to decide. If a person stops fulfilling reasonable contract, you've got to decide. But we never do. We keep going back and say, oh, it's all my fault. Or he keeps beating you up, it's all my fault. All the victim mind gets in, It's very messy. That's a
I think so.
good one.
Well,
Kenny, that's right, darling. Exactly. Keep going. Eileen, yes, Eileen, sweetheart.
Thank you, Robina. Here's my question. If everything that happens to us is karma ripening, whether it's good or bad or what have you, I'm trying to understand, is dependent arising?
You better go back again. You got to start again. I didn't hear what you said.
If everything that happens to us in our life, externally, etc., people, situation, whatever, life, is karma ripening, then, because I'm trying to understand dependent arising, is dependent arising in causation? Does that equal?
Okay, darling, I know all these words. We've got to learn to know the definitions, otherwise they're just gobbledygook,
Right, well, that's what I'm trying to.
No, I understand. Okay. So when it comes to the sort of like looking at the most final way, the Buddha's view about how things exist actually, at the most basic level, is that everything, conventionally speaking, everything exists interdependently. And why he's telling us that is he sees deep in the bones of our being, we don't see it like that. And this is the energy of all the neuroses, the energy of ego grasping, the energy of attachment, the energy of anger. They're very rigid, solid, separate, set in stone, no space, no movement, no dependence. They're kind of rigid. Everything is kind of I am this, and it's like a fundamentalist state of mind. And there's no space for anything in that. But things are more fluid, more spacious, more interdependent. It really means more spacious, more fluid. So when all the ego voices, attachment and anger and jealousy, they're I-based, they're fear-based, they're concrete, they're set in stone, and they're just jagged and unhappy, and nothing works when they're predominating, you know? So that's not, so literally they're not in touch with reality. They're fantasies. And all these fantasies are rigid and concrete. It's the only way to say it. I'm using easygoing language. Whereas the virtuous states of mind are more related to things working well. When I say, I love you, it means I want you to be happy. May you be happy. And I'll have affection for you and I'll reach out to you. And a sense of a vivid Robina is less than. It's more of a connectedness with me and Eileen. It's more like a we is there. When you have a lot of affection for other people, when you have compassion, when you have kindness, there's much more sense of connectedness with each other. That's a simple way of saying we're all existing interdependently as little pieces in a room. If we're all harmonious and nice to each other, things work well. The pieces are working well. So in general, dependent arising is everything exists interdependently. Now, there are different levels of it, darling. Causation, cause and effect, is the very basic level. So this is where karma comes in. So the Buddha would say, we all have this feeling, a gut feeling, that somewhere we're the handiwork of someone else. And it's the philosophies of our world. The religious philosophies say there's a creator who made me. The materialist scientific philosophy says my mummy and daddy made me. And in each case, with this feeling of being this separate person who got plonked on this planet and who plays no role in who I am at all, and it's always everybody else's fault. That's the way ego feels. Buddha says it's a load of nonsense. It's not like that. That our mind goes back and back and back. It's not physical. It's every millisecond what we think and do and say programs us. And we come into this life programmed with our own tendencies, with our own experiences. That's a hugely different view. So cause and effect is the most basic way that things exist interdependently. And these are arguments he's having actually with the Hindus before him. They would assert there's a concrete, essential energy called the self, or the Christians call it a soul. And Buddha would argue with that. No possibility, not like that. So it's quite a subtle discussion. The very first level of dependent arising is, yeah, causes, for example. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Because he's saying we're not in touch with things existing interdependently. There's a very vivid sense of a concrete me, concrete you, concrete this, concrete that. We're always bashing into everything. There's no sense of kind of fluid and connectedness. Everything's jagged and and it's all I-based, totally I-based. It sounds embarrassing to say it, but when we're attached and angry and jealous, it's totally me, poor, concrete, separate me, you know? Do you understand? Something like that.
Thank you.
And they're what make us miserable, and virtues make us happy. I mean, when we have more virtues in our mind, we're more happy. Automatically, we're more patient, we're more kind, we're more compassionate, we're more fulfilled, we're more content. Suffering comes from attachment, anger, jealousy, depression, low self-esteem, and all these nonsense. But join the universe, we've all got them. What else, people? Something else? Question. But looking things in the eye, this is hard. It's really hard. And we realize that when attachment doesn't get what it wants, especially when it's very powerful, like, you know, your example, this ugly person, this awful person, and there are some awful people on the planet, there's no question, they're all suffering, but they are. And it just triggers every one of our garbage. We know that. It's a disaster, you know, and our families, it's like that. We get into a big mess. So the thing is to really be aware of this and to grab the second that trigger happens, to grab what's inside. It's very hard, though. It's very hard. It's what we mean by panic attack. It's almost too difficult to control it, you know, because these delusions are so rampant. So start with the small things. I always joke. Go to the kitchen, there's hubby slurping his coffee again. The smallest thing you could ever imagine. Look it in the eye. Instead of aversion, panic, go away, stop it. Observe it. It's just a sound, Robina. Let him enjoy his coffee, Robina. That's looking it in the eye. I mean, even I know I was talking about my lady downstairs from me, who first of all complained about me making noises and would bang on the ceiling. And I started tiptoeing around. Now I'm used to tiptoeing. But the other thing was, she has this, I think she's very old, has a walker. And I think she has bad breathing. So I think she has this machine and she turns it on sometimes and my floor vibrates. I'm sitting at my desk kind of vibrates, you know. In certain parts of the house, you can hear it vividly. So I was having a panic attack. I think, how can I live like this? It'll be on 24 hours a day sometimes. So what I mean by looking in the eye, I had no choice. I realized I did not want to be freaked out. I'm like where I live. I did not want to have to leave. So I had to do what? Look it in the eye. And that meant look at it carefully. Don't resist it. Stop being angry with it. And realize, so one of the things, I'm not trying to sound like a saint, I promise, I'm not a saint. But what I realized was probably her breathing machine. I had to learn to say words like, I'm glad for her that she can breathe. And I really mean it. I had to practice that thought. But the other one I had to do was stop resisting it. That's what I'm talking about, looking in the eye. Stop aversion. Aversion resists it. Aversion saying, go away, this is not fair, I don't deserve it, how dare you do that to me? I had to look it in the eye. I couldn't change it. So now it doesn't worry me. That's what I'm talking about. Are we communicating? But if there's a multi-murderer coming to my room, I don't think I could do that. I'm not ready for that one. But a noise downstairs I can handle. Do you understand me? Especially when you have no choice. Because we live with the righteousness of how dare it should not be this way, and then end up neighbours murder each other, you know, because they're both each fighting and never giving up. When you've got no choice, when you can't change it. We have to have courage, because I was surprised I got over it so quickly. And I'm a feisty person. Do you understand? I thought I couldn't believe this. And now, so two things. I was happy that she's able to breathe now. But the other one was, I decided I'd stop paying attention to it. I looked her in the eye, but I stopped going on about it. So now it happens, and it's just in the background. I go, oh, the noise is there. Do you understand my point? And our minds are extremely flexible. We have to trust that. I was surprised how quick it worked. Honestly, it was like, oh, wow, it actually worked. Do you understand? But we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. We feel so righteous. But she should not do this. But she is wrong. That's how we are, you know. That's what anger says. That's anger, isn't it? That's what anger is, so righteous. Anger is so righteous. How dare, look at me, you looking at me, listen to me, Joey. Are you hearing me, Joey? Or you disappeared? Joey, she's buggered off, as we say in Australia. We say that in Australia very comfortably. It's not bad. Don't worry about it.
No, I didn't bug her off. I promise I'm here.
Okay. You hear my point though, Joey?
I hear it loud and clear.
darling.
Holy Toledo.
Okay, you know.
Yes, thank you.
Anyway, other questions?
Venerable
Yes,
Robina,
Michael, go. What? Where? Okay, go down. Hang on, Michael, in a minute. Go, sweetheart.
I have a slightly different question.
Go to the closer. Closer.
I have a 5-year-old.
Oh, well
and-
done. You've got a 5-year-old child.
Yeah.
Oh, they'd be dead. They were mine, they'd be dead. Guaranteed. I could not cope with a child.
You can see all the things that you're talking about that make them extremely unhappy. Like, do you have any suggestions for like sort of
What?
guiding them or teaching them or showing?
That's that again. That's suggestions for what?
Well, like I mean, anything that you're talking about, I mean, kids have so much attachment, they don't get it, and they're like, melting down and really.
I know,
Like, how do you start to
no,
teach
there's
kids?
no, I mean, I think when it's a 5-year-old child, the main learning is for you to see your own. And then the more you mirror back to them patience and kindness and slowly. I mean, this is where the trouble is, isn't it? If every time, it's like you're in a tennis match and she starts hitting crazy balls and you start hitting crazy balls back, disaster. This is where you've got to be. I mean, to be a parent sounds so simple. I can't imagine the job of being a parent. It's an incredibly difficult job because you've got to be patient and humble and steady as a rock. Because you can't. That's why people kill their kids. Kind of make them stop. That's why. I mean, it's impossible. But what can you do? You can't show a 5-year-old child. You have to learn to encompass it and then channel it. Channel it. Don't suffocate it. Channel it. She'll learn like you did. You were 5 once.
I want him to have a better.
What?
I want him to have a better kind of foundation.
Oh, and so the better foundation is you being an example. I swear to you, that's the answer. That's the answer. That's why it's such a tremendously powerful job. I can't imagine it. But you're very brave. But that's the answer. The key is you. And the more you know your mind, the more you can understand his, and the more you can help him. That's the answer, I think. Oh, sorry. Okay, go Michael. Yes, Michael.
So I was just thinking about what you were saying about relationships. And I think if you have a relationship where you have compassion, and you want that other person to be happy, it's not really attachment. But if you're somebody that just needs to have a relationship in order for themselves to be happy, and they cling to the idea that I failed as a person if I don't have a relationship, and that's
So you're talking about how some people think, right? So what's the question?
So does that sound right, though, that if somebody's clinging to the idea that I can't be happy unless I have a relationship, and
Right, so then the question is,
I just want I'm just asking, would you describe this as attachment?
oh, totally, of course it is attachment, of course. Oh, sweetie pie, Michael, of course it's attachment. It's an assumption that on my own, I'm just not enough. It's the
Yes.
grossest expression of attachment. Now, I'm not saying no, everybody walk around not having a relationship.
Right, right.
You can be even more attached, sitting in your own house doing what you want all the time. So, of course, it's what drives us
Yeah,
to relationships, because there's an assumption that I'm somehow on my own, I'm just not enough. But on the other hand, Michael, we've got different karma, and if you have you have the karma to have a relationship, and there's a person there, then that's your practice, honey.
right.
It's not that it's wrong having a relationship. I mean,
Right.
you can be a bodhisattva and have a relationship, but you make it your practice.
So having a relationship by itself is not attachment. It's when you
No, sorry, a relationship, yes, by definition is attachment, because that's where we are, Michael. But when you're advanced, it's not. You then a bodhisattva would have 27 relationships. No, but in general, what drives in our culture and samsara, what drives the need for a relationship, of course, is attachment. But we can make it practice, given that you've got one. That's what I'm trying to say. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just trying to understand the fine tuning of it. So I kind of get it that.
But I mean, if you think of them karma, it's countless lifetimes that animals, I mean, we've been animals and ants and dogs and monkeys, and it's all the same. You look at those animal shows, and the monkeys are just versions of us with hairy bodies, that's all. The jealousy and the dramas and the power struggles and and it's exactly the same, because the delusions, the Buddha's view of the mind is for all creatures, not just humans. And attachment pervades everybody. And of course, the sexual one, of course, these days we're more flexible, but the old-fashioned one of penises and vaginas meeting, that's very old-fashioned and boring now. I mean, that's just karma, you've got a penis, you need a vagina. Okay, that's why we have relationships. I mean, you get my point.
Yeah.
Now we do it with dogs and God knows what. People have the weird with dolls. All these people have basically dummies and inflatable dolls. It's kind of gone berserk, God almighty. Anyway.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that's just because I don't have one doesn't mean I'm a saint. On the other hand, I'm just plain selfish. I never wanted one. I had karma to be a nun. This is very clear.
Makes
Anyway,
sense.
whatever. Go on. Are we clear, Michael?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank
So you
you.
make the most of it. You learn to be patient and humble and kind, and take care of Stacey and make her tea in the morning and stop complaining.
I wasn't
Be your mother. Most men want their wives to be their mother. Stop
I
pretending
wasn't,
to be your mum. I'm not saying anything. You got my point. I'm just joking.
okay, I wasn't complaining. I was just
I
clarifying.
understand, darling. I understand.
Okay, thank you.
But I think having a relationship, I mean, hard one. And of course, it's like very painful. The person I know, no matter who it is married since he's 19, husband, both for 19, 7 children, 27 grandchildren, 25 great-grandchildren. Husband died 2 years ago, and she's saying still the greatest pain I have ever known. And from her point of view, because it's just the world, that's what love means. That's what love means. She doesn't even know no distinction between love and attachment. But you could argue, Michael, this is the point, in a relationship that's based on attachment, you can then develop love and compassion and not suffer so badly because you don't have so much attachment. That's clear. We suffer because of attachment, not because of love. That's the distinction to make, That's the part to really see. You can't suffer because of compassion and love. It's not possible. But if we distinguish them from neuroses, remember that. Anyway, time to go home, is it?
Then, Robina, there is a question in the chat
Yes, Zoe.
a while ago from Kim. It's in the chat.
Go, Kim. Do you want to talk to me, or you want in the question? Kim, you want to talk to me, sweetheart? So what does it say? What's Kim's question?
Her question reads, this was from before talking about meditation. Why isn't this meditation taught in all schools at an early age? Is it taught in other cultures at an early age?
I think, no, yeah, I know, it seems obvious, doesn't it, Kim? It really seems a good idea. But you've got to have a person who sees the benefit. And if you don't see the benefit, they're not going to get taught in a school, that's for sure. You go to one of these Christian schools in Texas, they're not going to teach it. They say it's the devil. So it depends on the person, isn't it? Someone will try to bring these things in. But it's sure, of course it should be, since we're little girls and boys, we should be learning to see our minds before the wheels wobble. I agree with you, Kim. What else, people? Questions? Huh? The key to all our things I'm saying, every word I'm saying in this room is based on the Buddhist analysis that makes a distinction between the neuroses and the virtues. We can kind of hear it, but it's not, we don't focus on it like that in modern psychology or neuroscience. We just assume that anger, love, jealousy, depression, anxiety are all normal parts of a normal person. And they are, but the Buddha's radical difference is he has found from his own experience that the neuroses are not at the core of our being, they're the source of our pain, and we can, the very minimum, we can lessen them and grow the virtues, and we are the beneficiaries. That we sort of even know that, but it's not totally focused. Our psychology doesn't focus it like that. It doesn't talk about it like that. This is the key point in Buddhism. That's what I'm saying.
So then, could you talk a little bit about anxieties are not a dependent arising? I mean, it seems like you have all these conditions that come together. And
No, I'm not saying it's not a dependent arising. I mean, I started off by saying when I say this is it causes trouble because I don't explain it properly. Everything that exists is a dependent arising. What I'm saying is the delusions, the virtues are valid cognitions. And if they're valid, then they're rooted in some sense of dependent arising is existing there. There's some feeling of dependence within those virtues. When you are virtuous and I am virtuous, things work harmoniously and nicely. That view, can you hear that?
yeah,
So in that sense, there's some semblance in our minds, even not articulate, of things existing interdependently. There's an idea, there's understanding of it within our minds.
but the negative emotions.
But the negative emotion, there's no sense of dependent, or there's vivid, concrete, righteous, set in stone me, an ugly, mean, horrible, disgusting, set in stone you, and there's no meeting point. They're totally separate, delusional, neurotic, vivid, concrete, just concrete, independent absolutes. The opposite of the meaning of dependent arising. Can you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I do.
It's just my way of saying it. I say weird things and I get confused. And I confuse everybody else.
Mhm.
All right, what else? That'll do. Food for thought. Come on, it's enough. Food for thought. Oh, my safety pin's still there. That's good. Oh. Okay, enough, I think. Unless there's something else one people want to say. Anything? Nothing? That do for tonight? So try and look it in the eye. Look the ugly thing in the eye. That's the one when there's no fear. That's why, oh, sorry. That's why I always tell the story when I got held up with a gun. That's why I tell that story. Do you understand me? Some reason I was able to look him in the eye and therefore there was no fear. Therefore, what I'm getting at is this. Okay, if you get help with a gun, normally fear comes. Would you agree? Unless maybe you haven't been helped with a gun. Yes. Well, I've been helped with a gun. Fear comes, you panic, you freeze, and this absolute monster is out there and you're just completely freaking out, right? That's when there's absoluteness, concrete, solid, no dependent arising. For whatever reason, this particular time, because it's 50 years ago, 18, 19, 100, 50 years ago, 51 years ago, downtown, Lower East Side, 1974. I'm walking home. Janet, my sister, had a glass of wine. She'd stolen it from the Irish bar that we went to. 2 in the morning, Lower East Side, and this dude turns up with a gun and it goes in here. Give me your money, bitch, he said. I remember the words. Give me your money, bitch. Probably said it slightly differently. And there's comedy pursued. I remember so vividly, you know. So what happens is, because I'm bossy and get angry easily and no one's going to tell me what to do, ever, anywhere, anytime, I started arguing with him. And it was all very vivid and crystal clear. And first of all, instantaneously, I can see crystal clear he was more afraid than me. That was clear to me. It was crystal clear. He was more afraid. I saw his face and I liked him. He's a nice looking guy, you know. There's this gun here between my breasts. It was all very quick. And I started shouting at him. Of course, I had an English accent, so for him it was very confusing, you know, this bossy English person shouting at him when he had a gun in my breast. So it was completely confusing for him. I said, I have to swear now. I said, fuck you, man. I said, excuse me. And it seemed so clear to me. I said, we as poor as you give us your money. That's what I said, using logic to argue. He couldn't argue, you know. He kept saying, give me your, and then Gianna kept saying, hey, brother, have some wine. It was comedy. It was a comedy, I tell you. What I'm meaning is, because for whatever reason there was no fear, I looked him in the eye and suddenly I just saw this nice boy. I didn't see some monster with a gun. Do you see what I'm trying to say? When you look at it and there's no fear, it dissipates. And it really was like that. Can you hear my point? I'm not trying to show off. It just happened, you know. Do you understand me?
Yes.
I mean, can't guarantee we're going to be that way because fear just naturally arises. But that was when there was no fear. And that's when I realized after that, even then, before becoming Buddhist, when there's no fear, there's no suffering. I didn't suffer. He probably suffered more than me. He kept saying, give me your money. I said, no, give me your money. Have some wine. No, give me your money. And this is too much, you know. And it was this close to me, this close, you know. I remember him vividly back there. Then he kind of shrugged. And he was very stoned. And he ran I had this very beautiful Indian jacket on, lovely sort of pinky scarlet jacket. I remember it. I liked it a lot. Well, before I wasn't a nun. And he ran his finger down here, not rudely, just very gently between my breasts. And he kind of wandered into the night. That was it. So it was my party story. So I'm just using it as an example of I looked it in the eye. That's an extreme example. I was very fortunate. You understand? I learned from that so massively because there was no, I just saw what it was. I saw what was there, not an object of my fear. I saw a boy, a nice young guy who had a gun, trying to get some money, probably needed drugs. He was quite sweet. Do you understand me? I saw it more clearly. When you have fear, you don't see. You see this ugly thing. Panic, 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 you know? Do you hear what I'm saying? So it's a very good example. Give me the mic. Yeah.
Thank you. I love your story. I always love that story so
Okay.
much. And I have a follow-up question about that.
Yeah, go.
Is that your karma?
Well, that's
Because you had it,
something else too. Yeah, sure.
yeah.
You mean to be that way?
I mean, because it's
for it to happen.
so stark and incredible to have such presence of mind.
Well, no,
To
I know whatever the reason. But he was a little girl. I mean, he was a little girl. I mean, most little girls, maybe not these days because people don't go on train. I used to go to my ballet classes on the train on my own and walk home at night on my own. And of course, men being the way they were would expose themselves in trains and stop you in the street and things like that. It's just normal for girls to have this experience, you know? Normal. Then, anyway. But I remember even then, a little girl. I remember even when I was about 11, come home from my ballet lesson. This dude turns up, I could tell, and he wanted me to touch him, you know. He sounded weird. I remember straight away I felt sorry for him. I said, you'll get into trouble. You just go home. I mean, I can't help it's my personality, obviously, you understand. I realized this poor dude, ridiculous man, go home, you know, like that. So whatever reason, my nature. But I mean, but if you get but I had this karma with my sister, my oldest sister. She just had to blink at me, and I'd be tears weeping on the ground. So there you go. So it depends on the situation. Karma with my sister. She just called me cockeye once because I'm cross-eyed, you see, and I'd be completely destroyed. My sister, I can mangle a gunman. So it just shows. Do you understand? It's so ridiculous.
Thanks. I just, wow, that's amazing to have that karma to look at the theater so directly.
But it was all I'm using as an example when we can do it with the small things. It never looks that bad. Like when I was able to analyze that sound downstairs, it stopped being that horrible because it's our anger and panic that makes it horrible. But to know that, to trust it, is really helpful. That's the point I'm making. Get my point? Thank you. Because delusions exaggerate. That's like one of the meditations with this book we did, Lama Zopa, all those years, people in prison, when I was running the prison project, they'd all write to Lama Zopa, and he'd write, one guy got a 45-page typed letter. Unbelievably, and of course, the prisoner wrote and said he had strong sexual attachment to women. You know, what can he do in a prison? He's got blokes, you know. I'm going to say it's detailed, and the very first level of practice, and it's the same thing. When you're attached to something, it appears divine and perfect. So you analyze, you get in close. So he said you start to look in close, you look at the skin, it's disgusting, you really attach to that body. Imagine if they got cut and blood came out. I mean, it's all the body. So you analyze it differently, so it manifests differently, because attachment sees a lie, anger and fear see a lie. So you deconstruct it, and then the attachment and the fear dissipate. Do you understand? Because delusions see fantasies, and they're panic stricken. Attachment's like another panic strike. It's completely like you're demented when you're out of your brain when you're in love with somebody. You're like mad. You've gone crazy, you know, isn't it? Anyway, it was very interesting. Time to go home, okay? Enough. Good night. Thank you, Jung Truk Sem Jog. Rinpoche ma ke panam ke guchi ke pa nyamba me pa yang gong ne gong du pa ba shog ge wa di nudo dag lama sange drug yu ne dro a chi kyang malu pa de sara go pa shog. So keep looking at our minds, people. I'm just talking Buddhist view of the mind here in my words. So hopefully something useful. But know we can change our mind and know that our mind is the main source of what happens in something. That's pretty tremendous. When we know that, we're free and we can change. So just keep doing, keep working, and keep away from trouble if we have to. Okay, goodbye. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.